The moment you hear something that shakes you, sometimes the truth doesn't arrive gently, it hits without warning. Let me tell you something. The truth rarely comes when you feel ready. It doesn't knock on the door and wait for permission. It crashes in, one sentence, one comment, one quiet warning from someone you didn't expect. And suddenly your peace is gone, your heart tightens, your mind freezes. You replay the words again and again, hoping you heard them wrong. But deep down, you know something just shifted. Truth has a way of doing that. It doesn't explain itself. It doesn't soften the blow. It simply shows up and leaves you to deal with the impact. And in that moment, you feel exposed, unsure, and shaken because the world you thought you understood no longer feels stable. The shock of hearing something you never expected about someone you love, hearing something troubling about someone you love feels different than hearing it about a stranger. It hits deeper. It feels personal. This is someone you defended, someone you trusted, someone you believed you knew. And suddenly, your mind fights back. That can't be right. They would never do that. Your chest gets heavy because love and shock collide at the same time. Parents feel it. Partners feel it. Friends feel it. The closer the bond, the stronger the shock. It feels unfair. It feels wrong. And for a moment, you wish you could erase what you just heard and go back to not knowing why your mind rejects uncomfortable information before it examines it. Your mind isn't broken when it rejects hard information. It's trying to protect you. Painful truth feels like danger. So the mind blocks it, it delays it, it pushes it away. That's why your first reaction isn't logic, it's defense. You don't analyze, you resist. You search for reasons why. It can't be real, because facing it means change. And change feels heavy. It means conversations you don't want to have. Choices you don't want to make. That's why denial feels safe. Not right. Just safe. Caught between love and reality, the emotional tug-of-war begins. This is where the real struggle starts. Love pulls you one way. Reality pulls you the other. One side says, protect them. The other says, pay attention. You feel torn. If you accept the truth, you feel like you're betraying love. If you reject it, you feel like you're betraying yourself. This tug-of-war drains you. It keeps you awake at night. It follows you into quiet moments. And the longer it lasts, the heavier it becomes. The instinct to defend. Justify or dismiss what feels too painful. When pain shows up, defense comes fast. You explain it away. You make excuses. You blame timing, stress, or other people. Anything. That keeps the truth at a distance. Because accepting it feels like opening a door you're not ready to walk through. But here's the hard part. Ignoring something doesn't make it smaller. It just gives it space to grow. And the moment you choose comfort over awareness, the problem starts leading instead of you. Why we reject the truth about people we love creates blind spots, and we rarely notice them while their growing love has a way of softening our vision. When you care deeply, you don't see clearly, you see kindly. You notice the good first. You remember the smiles, the promises, the past. And slowly, without realizing it, you stop noticing the warning signs. Not because you're weak, but because you're human. Blind spots don't appear overnight. They grow quietly, one excuse at a time. One they'll be fine at a time. And by the time you notice, they're already blocking your view. Love doesn't mean you're foolish. It means you're invested. But unchecked love can blur reality until problems look smaller than they are. When loyalty becomes silence and silence becomes damaged, loyalty feels noble. It feels right. You don't want to speak against someone you care about. So you stay quiet. You wait. You hope things fix themselves. But silence has weight. And when silence replaces honesty, damage follows. Silence tells the problem it can stay. It tells bad behavior it won't be challenged. Over time, silence becomes permission. Not spoken permission, but lived permission. And the longer it lasts, the harder it is to undo what it allows. The fear of being wrong hurts more than the truth itself. Being wrong doesn't just hurt pride. It hurts identity. It means admitting you missed something, that you trusted when you shouldn't have. That fear keeps people frozen. They'd rather stay unsure than face the pain of being wrong. Because once you accept the truth, you can't hide anymore. You have to act, and action carries risk. So people cling to doubt, not because it's better, but because it delays responsibility. Why confrontation feels scarier than consequences. Confrontation feels immediate. Consequences feel distant. That's why people avoid the talk they need to have. They fear tears, anger, broken comfort, but consequences don't disappear. They wait, and they grow. What feels uncomfortable today becomes unbearable tomorrow. Avoiding a hard moment doesn't remove pain, it reschedules it. Love as a curtain, soft, warm, and dangerous. When it hides reality, love can become a curtain. It feels safe, it feels warm. But when it blocks the truth, it becomes dangerous. Curtains don't remove what's behind them, they just hide it. And hidden problems don't shrink. They spread quietly. Who are you really protecting, them or your comfort? This is the question that changes everything. Are you protecting them or protecting yourself from discomfort? Because real care doesn't hide, it faces. Even when it's hard. The powerful decision to watch in silence. The shift from emotional reaction to intentional observation. Reacting feels natural. Watching takes control. When emotions cool down, clarity rises. Instead of arguing, you observe. Instead of assuming, you notice. This shift changes everything. You stop guessing. You stop reacting to noise. And you start seeing patterns. Why? Silence is not weakness, but controlled strength. Silence isn't surrender. It's restraint. It's choosing not to waste energy. Strong people don't rush to speak. They wait. They listen. They let behavior speak first. Silence gives you power because it keeps your focus sharp. Patterns matter more than moments, and time reveals them. Anyone can explain one mistake. Patterns don't lie. Watch long enough and behavior repeats. Time exposes what words try to hide. That's why patience matters. Truth shows itself when you give it space. Actions speak louder than promises ever will. Words are easy. Action costs effort. When someone means change, it shows. Not once, not twice, but over time. Promises sound good. Behavior tells the truth. Truth doesn't announce itself, it leaks over time. Truth slips out in habits, in tone, and choices made when no one is watching. You don't force it, you observe it. And eventually, it becomes clear. Stop talking. Start watching. This is where leadership begins. Leaders don't rush. They watch first. They understand before they speak. This is where clarity is born. Section 4. What you notice when you actually pay AT&T on small behaviors expose big truths when you watch long. Enough big problems often hide in small actions. A missed promise, a repeated excuse, a quiet shift in behavior. When you pay attention, small signs add up. Habits don't lie. They repeat until you can't ignore them. People show who they are through repetition. What happens again and again matters more than what's said once. Consistency is the loudest confession people ever make. What repeats reveals belief. It reveals priority. Over time, actions tell a clear story without words. Character shows up when no one thinks you're watching. Real character appears in private moments. And choices made without pressure. Watching reveals what praise never could. The discomfort of seeing clearly after hoping you were wrong. Clarity hurts at first because hope fades, but clarity also frees you. It replaces confusion with truth. How long have you ignored what was right in front of you? This is the moment of honesty. But Moment you stop looking away and start facing what's been there all along, when suspicion turns into clarity. The exact moment denial breaks and you feel it in your chest, there is a moment when pretending stops working. It doesn't come with noise, it comes with pressure. A tight feeling in your chest. A quiet pause where your mind finally gives up. The fight. You replay everything you've seen, everything you've heard, and suddenly it lines up. Not because you want it to, but because it does. That's when denial breaks, not loudly. Internally, you feel it before you explain it. Your body understands before your words catch up. And in that moment, you realize something important. The truth didn't change. You just stopped running from it. When certainty arrives and doubt no longer protects you, doubt feels like shelter. It gives you somewhere to hide. But once certainty arrives, that shelter disappears. You don't guess anymore. You don't wonder anymore. And knowing removes comfort, because now staying still feels wrong. Doubt once protected your feelings. Certainty demands action. That's why people fear it. Because certainty doesn't allow delay. It stands there, steady, waiting for a response. Now I knew. The heavy silence after the truth settles in, there's a silence that follows real truth, not awkward silence. Heavy silence, the kind where your thoughts slow down. Where excuses disappear, where your heart feels heavier than before. This is the moment you say, now I knew. Not out loud, inside. And that silence isn't empty. It's full of understanding, full of responsibility, full of what comes next. Once you know, you're responsible. There is no neutral ground. Once you know, there's no middle space, no safe corner. Doing nothing becomes a choice. And that choice has weight. You can't unknow what you know. You can't act surprised later. Knowing places responsibility in your hands. And whether you act or avoid, you are choosing a direction. You can't unsee what clarity shows you. Clarity changes vision forever. You can look away, but you still know what's there. And every time you ignore it, it gets louder inside you. Because truth doesn't fade. It waits out the high cost of pretending after truth appears. Pretending after truth appears costs peace. It costs sleep. It costs respect for yourself. And that cost grows the longer you delay. The hard truth about love. An AC that without standards isn't kind, it's neglect. Love isn't just warmth. It's guidance. Without standards, love becomes passive. It watches harm and calls it patience. Real care doesn't step aside when someone is drifting. It steps in. Because letting someone fall isn't kindness. It's neglect dressed up as comfort. Why accountability is one of the highest forms of care. Holding someone to a standard says, I believe you can do better. That's care. That's belief in growth. It's easier to stay quiet. It's harder to correct. But correction shows investment. It says the relationship matters enough to protect it from damage. Choosing discipline over indulgence. When it would be easier not to, it's easier to give comfort than structure, easier to excuse than correct. But discipline builds strength. Indulgence builds weakness. And when you choose discipline, you're choosing long-term well-being over short-term ease. Real love builds fences before cliffs. Fences don't limit freedom. They prevent disaster. Love that sets limits isn't harsh. It's wise. It sees danger ahead and acts early. Are you raising comfort or strength? Comfort feels good now. Strength lasts longer. Which one are you building? This is where leaders are separated from enablers. Leaders protect people from harm. Enablers protect comfort. The difference shows in action. What watching taught me about Emotion of seeing my blind spots was harder than seeing theirs. It's easier to see flaws in others. Harder to admit your own. Watching closely revealed my blind spots too. And that was uncomfortable, but necessary. The mistakes I made long before this moment, some issues don't start today. They start years earlier. Small choices. Missed moments. I had to face mine honestly. How patterns get passed down without permission, what we ignore often repeats. Not because we want it to, but because it was never corrected. Sometimes the lesson isn't about them, it's about you. Sometimes life uses others to teach us, and the lesson points inward. Owning the truth without self-pity or excuses. Ownership isn't shame, it's strength. It's the first step toward doing better. The consequences of ignoring what you can. Ownable problems don't shrink when ignored, they multiply. Ignoring issues doesn't weaken them, it feeds them. Silence gives them room to grow. Time doesn't heal what you refuse to address, time only reveals what was left undone. Healing needs action. Uncorrected behavior doesn't fade, it hardens. What isn't challenged becomes fixed. And fixed behavior is harder to change. The damage done by waiting too long to act. Delay increases damage. Relationships strain. Trust weakens. The price rises. What will this look like in 5 years if nothing changes? Picture it honestly, then decide now. Face it now, or pay for it later. Early action is always cheaper than late regret. When it's time to step in and speak. Knowing when watching ends and action begins. Watching has a purpose, so does action. Knowing when to shift matters. Why timing matters more than volume. Loud words at the wrong time fail. Calm words at the right time land. Preparing yourself before you confront anyone else. Check your motive. Clear your mind. Speak with control. Speaking from truth, not anger, ego, or fear. Anger clouds the message. Truth clarifies it. Correction without clarity is just noise. Without clarity, words confuse instead of guide. Leading with calm authority instead of emotional reaction. Calm strength earns respect. Reaction loses it. The message that must be delivered. Truth can be firm without being cruel. Firm words can still be respectful. Clarity doesn't require harshness. Boundaries don't require hatred. They require courage. Limits protect both sides. They don't reject. They guide. Clear expectations remove confusion and excuses. When expectations are clear, responsibility follows. Words are seeds. Plant them carefully. Words grow into outcomes. Choose them wisely. Speaking in ownership, not accusation. Ownership invites change. Accusation creates defense. What this story teaches everyone allies T9G. This was never just about a sum. This story is about awareness, about courage, about care. How this applies to parents, leaders, friends, and you. Anyone who influences others faces this choice. Watching your own habits before judging other. Self-awareness comes first. You are being watched by your future. Your future is shaped by today's choices. The question you can't avoid answering anymore: will you face truth or avoid it? Wake up call. Watch before it's too late. Truth always reveals itself. The only question is when truth doesn't disappear. It waits. Courage is required early, not after the damage is done. Early courage prevents lasting pain. Pay attention. Act with courage. Lead with truth. These are choices. Make them daily. Watch closely. Act wisely. Love responsibly. This is how you protect what matters.